me see. Host chat.
Mhm. You might want to type something in. You can tell people when people log on, you just can't tell who it is.
You see that message just pop up?
Hold on. I got a red dot on host chat. How's it going? Please let us know what you see on the screen. Nothing. There's nothing on public. You got to go under host chat for me to see it.
Yeah, I'm in host chat.
Okay. Can you
So
can you post in that public thing to go to host chat to
let me
type in
see.
anything? Who's that country boy talking?
Okay. So there may be a chance that uh, I'll be fumbling around trying to shrink this video while you're like during one of your explanations. So
So the
don't.
video
Oh,
you're working on
okay.
is not this video; it's the second one. I'm assuming
Yeah, the second one.
the
So
one
okay,
that I
I
love
can
so
see your
much.
message. So people are typing in now. There's 9 people on here right now. Okay. Sorry about all this, guys. We're just trying to get this all set up. It's our first go around with this platform for me and Steven, and we're going to have some rookie errors here. They've even changed the platform since I was doing I used to do a podcast here called Outdoor Cameraman Experience, and um, they've changed the platform since then, so it's even a little bit different now. But anyhow, there's 10 people that are on. Do you see the viewer count up there on your screen, Steven?
I see nothing. Where would I look for it?
Oh, it's probably just on my screen then.
Oh,
It's up at the top. Yeah, I can see 10 people on here right now. Do you see any of the public posts? Ben Walters, Andrew Smith, and S. Guzman are on here right
yeah,
now.
Steven Guzman from the great state of South Carolina. He's got a
Okay.
Bobo puppy.
He's got a what?
A Bobo puppy.
Oh, he
Really,
does.
Bobo was my first SRS winner, and he's turned into a heck of a young dog himself.
I killed the ice in my Yeti cup so it doesn't slosh around and make a bunch of noise while we're doing this. Okay. Jonathan Bradshaw's on here. Very good. There's 16 people on, so we might as well get this going if you want to.
Well,
Did we give
absolutely.
everyone 10 minutes?
No, not even close. But we can start. Um, we can start fumbling through this, and at least if you want, if there's anybody sitting there that wants to ask a quick question that I can answer in 2 minutes. Whoa, something just changed, big boy.
Yeah, I'm changing. I'm just seeing
Okay.
which screen looks the best. I
I
got
mean,
we got
I
4
can answer a
choices
quick
here.
question or two if I can answer a quick question or two if somebody wants to ask.
Do
While
this.
we're waiting on everybody to join.
Yeah, so definitely encourage questions. I know there's several questions I got on Instagram that I wanted to address at some point tonight, but I'll wait until we'll probably do that at the end. Maybe we'll have a Q&A at the end of every show so we can just get into the meat of our program. And today we're going to be talking about swim by again in more detail, but we're going to dedicate the whole show to swim by because there's so much to talk about. And whoever is on here, I don't know if you got to see or review the videos that I posted on my Instagram page, but those were meant for people to watch, understand, misunderstand, have questions, critique, whatever it was. And then we've got this platform here in the middle of our screen that we can play back the video and actually go through it and do a play-by-play critique on it where Steven's going to show me what I did wrong and tell me what I need to do to correct those things.
And guys, when I really saw the ice break in the last episode, you could really tell when everybody kind of lightened up and got super excited and started interacting and typing in questions and wanting to know all, all the little details. So don't sit over there in your little part of the world and don't be afraid to interact. We might not be able to answer all these questions, but that's definitely an objective, is to get everybody discussing this, because just like we started talking about at the beginning, when it comes to swim by, everybody throws that term around, but they don't know what they're really saying. They don't know the definition of this stuff. They just kind of throw it out there and hope nobody asks them, to elaborate and put it into detail. So, y'all interacting and y'all asking questions helps not just fill in the time, but help us show what direction we're going to go in next. We didn't get to swim by because we said, okay, now we're going to go to swim by. We got to swim by because Jake hit a bump in the road and didn't know how to fix it, which led us down this path. And we spent the better part of 2 hours last week trying to get through this, and probably going to spend the better part of our time tonight doing the same thing, because it's not just a topic you just hit really quick with a brush and say, okay, I got it, and move on. So love y'all being here, love y'all interacting, and I hope y'all get something out of it.
So I think, we talked about this earlier. The best way to start this is to really kind of define swim by, so everyone knows what the objective is, what the handler is supposed to do, what the dog is supposed to do, and how you get there, and all that good stuff. So why don't you explain to us exactly what swim by is?
Well, a lot of people tell you it's discipline casting on water. My favorite explanation is Evan Graham said that swim by its very definition is a controlled return on water. It is a tool, it's a mechanism that we have in place that we can, when a dog chooses to take a less water route on return, we can activate swim by, turn swim by on, and ask the dog to swim to greater lengths, to farther depths than they were choosing to do naturally. Essentially, when a dog shows that they are bent toward land, we can bend them toward water in an equal or even greater fashion, so that when we activate swim by, what we're doing is telling a dog that's saying, I'm going to get out early, and making them swim farther than they normally would have, so that ultimately when they compromise, it's a straight line back, that they give up on the trying to beach early concepts and start just swimming straight to us instead of trying to get out early and run around.
And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but Stephen sent me a phone video yesterday. He was demonstrating what a reaction should be from a dog that fully understands swim by, that's running down the bank. He gave the command no over, and the dog literally turned on a dime on a 90-degree edge and freaking hit the water like a freight train. And so, honestly, when I saw that, one of my first questions was, so how do you get to that level?
Well, you're close. We're going to see that in your videos that were close. Time, repetition, and association, and formalization. Again, to go back to Evan's term, he uses the term formalization. He said that it's achieved through repetition and pressure. You can, and if you choose to do more repetitions with less pressure, you can still formalize a command. You just got to do it more. You've got to associate those commands. A lot of people go through swim by and they do it in a swim by pond, and then they try to jump out and go to another piece of water, and the dog acts like it's never heard the command. And it's because it hasn't associated that behavior to a different place. One of the first things we caution for beginners that are coming in, it's their first dog trained, and we get it obedient and it looks great in the yard, and we caution, if you take this dog home, it's going to look like crazy in the house, because we haven't gone through obedience in the house. You have to associate all those commands from outside to inside, so that they understand that sit means sit no matter where you are, not just outside. So you have to associate those commands to different pieces of water. And you have to, hearing the word no around water should be a reaction to a dog that they automatically choose water. That's how I choose to do it. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that that you can't activate it another way. It's just the way that I choose to turn swim by on. So when we talked last week about turning swim by on, I made the comment that if you just blow the whistle and handle the dog, that's just blowing the whistle and handling the dog. But when you put the verbal cue of no while the dog is returning, that is activating swim by, which means turn to water and choose water until I tell you to stop. It's not just saying over, it's saying no, take water till I tell you to stop. So the reason going into, we had this specific question that we said we were going to address tonight, which is why do we trigger swim by on no? The reason why is because
opposed to a whistle.
Correct. Just like when I showed you that video of the dog running down the bank with the bumper in his mouth, and I said no, and he immediately turned to water and jumped in. What we're conditioning there is the ability to correct a dog's behavior as soon as you see their mind change towards doing something that is wrong. In this case, it's as soon as I think about cheating, he can, it's essentially, as soon as he thinks about doing the wrong thing, we can activate with that verbal cue of no, the absolute opposite of what he's thinking about doing. He's thinking about swimming less, and we can automatically say, oh, you thought about it? Now you got to do more. So it's kind of like the half-speed guys at practice. You're only as good as the guy that's going that's doing the minimal amount of effort. That guy caused everybody else to run more. So, and the same thing here, your lack of effort swimming is going to cause you to have to swim more, because I see what your mind is thinking. Your mind is thinking about less. And as soon as I see your mind turn toward the bank, I can verbal no and turn you to more water and ask you to swim until I tell you to stop.
And so no is a switch.
No is a switch. And like I said, if this was an algebra equation, no equals more water. And more water indefinitely. It's not just it's not that you're an in trouble thing. It has nothing to do with I'm mad at you, you're in trouble. It's simply saying, activate the sequence of swim by and do it until I tell you to stop.
Mm-hmm. And so where does this swim by, as far, let's back up a little bit, going, in your training sequence, where does swim by fall into place in terms of, one guy, Ben Walters, asked the main difference between swim by and the water tee. Where does the swim by come into your training progress?
Okay, so typically once you've taken a dog through basic handling on land and beginning to do discipline casting. So discipline casting is casting with a bumper in their mouth. We talked about this last week. Remember that discipline casting no longer is a goal motivated activity. When you send a dog on a retrieve, their goal is to get something in their mouth, and their next goal is to get back to you. And when you start talking about discipline casting, they're trying to come back to you, and you're telling them to go to different destinations based solely on the fact that I told you to do so, which turns into an extended form of obedience is what the drill turns into. It's no longer let me cast to get something in my mouth. Now it's I'm casting simply because I'm following the command given. So that concept, the more disciplined casting that you do before you go into swim by, the better off you are. A lot of programs will tell you to go through tee work, whether it be single tee, double tee. Some programs do one or both, but they'll say as soon as you get done with tee work, then you go into swim by. In an ideal situation for me, I would prefer to go through tee work and go to the pattern blind field, which will give me the opportunity to do more disciplined casting in different areas, which makes the dog more confident in the concept of sitting on a whistle, taking a cast with or without a bumper in their mouth, and then going to swim by. That just seems like it makes an easier transition. The dog has simply done more reps, done it in more places, and is more confident doing the concept, because swim by truly is just discipline casting on water And the more that you've done it on land, the more solid they feel, more comfortable they feel in the commands that you're given, the more likely they are to be successful going through swim by. If we've got cold weather coming, if we got exceedingly hot weather coming, we may not go all the way through the pattern blind field. We may go straight from doing T work to go into swim by. But in an ideal situation in my program, we do our T work, we go to the first pattern blind field and do a lot of refining on that, and then we go into swim by.
Got it. So we do have a couple videos to show you guys. If you haven't seen them, they're only 3 or 4 or 2 to 3 minutes long, and I think it's important that we go over this because let me go back again. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to say that probably every show to reiterate what this program is about. This is about, Steven's my coach. I'm the student. My dog is far more advanced than I am in terms of where he is in his training and what I don't even know what he can and can't do. I mean, I hunted over him for half of a duck season last year, and I know he can go pick up ducks and he looks like a champ out there, but I still don't understand what I'm doing well enough to reach the full potential of even where my dog is now. So, last week Stephen gave me the homework to go out to my pond and start the swim by drill, mostly for two reasons: to see how much I've let Tanner get away with and where he is now. And that just makes me laugh for some reason. And and um what let me see, what I don't understand about it, and the mistakes I'm going to make are going to be exposed in this video. So let me just play this,
I'm going to
okay?
try this swim by thing with Tanner. We talked about it last night on our live stream, and it just really
Is there a way that
hit
you can
home with
turn that
me.
volume down on the
And
video?
this is where I need to
Down.
go
Just a little, yeah.
to.
So
This is
one
where I
thing to
need to
point out
stay
here
for a little
How's
bit
is
that?
and
that
see how Tanner
that's
does.
great.
Like
One
Steven and
thing
I
to point
talked
out
about
here
on the
is that
phone
the
after
way we got into
our
doing
events
swim
last
by
night.
was that you
When
went and
Tanner
set up a
knows his
triple,
stuff, I can
hand
let him go
thrown,
with it
best
for
you could
long
do
enough to
triple,
where he's
and you
probably going
were
to
you were
push
worried
back
about doing one
on me,
long
like
bird,
Steven
and it turned
said.
out where you really messed
And
up
I
was
got
on
to
the
figure
left
this
short
out on
bird,
my own. So
and Tanner
this
ran
is where
around
we
the
got to go.
pond. He was skinny going out, and he was really skinny coming back. That's kind of what led us into this conversation. And I said, well, you need to do swim by. And you looked at me like I had three heads. So that was what got us all into this huge conversation. And this is literally the day after, right? This was Thursday that you sent me this video.
This was the day after for sure.
Okay.
And
So,
like many people, I think when you said swim by, or when the term swim by is used, if you don't know what it is technically, my first thought was, okay, I'm going to throw two marks. He's going to swim by the short bird, go get the long bird first, and then come back and get the short bird.
and
And and that and
that's a perfect example of how intimidating dog training terminology is, because a lot of times we're saying the same thing, we're just using different words. And sometimes you hear a concept like swim by and you go, that sounds like one thing, and it's not even close in reality to what I thought it was going to be. And it makes people hesitant to ask questions. It makes them reticent to jump into conversation because they don't want to look foolish. But
that's what
you got
I'm
to
here
remember,
for.
somebody made up these terms, along and along. You can name it whatever you want to, but that's how we got to this video. That's the point that I'm really wanting to make, is that the reason that this video is up here, this one and the next one, this was one of your first ones. I think you sent me two that day, and this was the first one. I really like the second one, and you don't have it queued up to get to do, which that's not too bad. But go ahead and play it, and then we'll talk our way through it.
Okay, here we go.
Actually, I'll probably talk through it while you
I've
do
got
it,
the
because
collar
I won't
on
be able to
and I've
be
got that
quiet.
bumper.
But
That's what we should do. That's what this is meant to do.
this is rep one. This was the first time. Is that
The
correct? This is
very
the very
first
first
time
time.
I've ever done swim by anywhere with any dog, period.
So one thing to point out is that they call it swim by because it really doesn't start until the dog begins to actually swim by you. So it's going to sound a little bit funny here, but if you'll look at the line from that he's swimming out, that is the line, that is the center line that you would assume he's going to struggle with. So when you're casting from the center to the edge, you're controlling his return. But swim by in a dog's mind. Let's say he's on the right-hand bank. There's your first attempt at no over. He's kind of sort of going that way. You did it decent the first time. He gave you a decent one the second one. Now, that was a little bit confusing to him. Pause it right there. Can you pause it?
Yep.
All right. So what I was saying, as far as the dog having to swim by the center line, typically we're asking a dog to come off the bank and go to the middle. And where you'll really see them struggle is they will try to perpetuate the line that they took toward the bank. You know, if you think of this like a water tee, and he swam to the intersection in the middle, and you cast to the bank, and then he picks up, and then you told him no over, he'll jump back in and swim pretty much the same line that he took, that completing the tee. But once he gets to the intersection and has to begin to swim past that line that he swam out, that's where they'll bog down and go, I don't understand. That's why it's swim by, because he's swimming by the handler and continuing to seek water until we tell him to do otherwise. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, so my confusion there. So the very first cast, I mean, that was a Hail Mary. And then when I got his attention and I said no over, I felt like I probably didn't pause enough between the no and the over. And I don't even know why. I just felt like those are two different things. And the cue or the switch is the no, and then the direction is the over. Is that correct?
Correct. And typically, most times we're going to give an over with it. That's what we're conditioning the dogs to do, because most of the time they're trying to beach to one side or the other, and we're going to make them swim the opposite way in order to balance out that unbalanced mind. So you said no the first time, he didn't listen, because I quite frankly can't believe that he gave it to you the second time. As many times as he'd gotten away with doing this bad behavior. And the second time you said no, he turned and he went to the right. And then the next thing you said was no and then back, which that would have been confusing, because when you activated swim by, you told him to go to that right side, and he was committed, he was going. And then you stopped him and then said no, or you didn't even stop him, you just said no, which at that point I'm sure he was like, I don't understand where I'm going right now. But he said more water, and then you said more water back without ever stopping. You said more water to the right, and then without ever stopping him, you said more water back, and he's like, oh, okay.
He's like, this guy's got coronavirus in his brain.
All right, so go ahead and keep playing.
Okay.
No. Over.
Okay, he told me to go back. Now he's telling me to go over. Now, it's a little bit hard to see on our screen. I mean, you can see him. Is there any way you can make that any bigger?
I don't think so.
No.
Now we just overed with a back cast. Wow. Back that up 10 seconds.
Okay, hang on 1 second. Let me swap this around until I find the right combination here. No. Which one's better to you? This one?
I would say the other one.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. And I could do. Okay, let me back it up a little. Where did you want me to back it up?
Over.
Yeah, a little bit farther back than that. Just 5 seconds farther back. All right, so he's swimming to the right.
Over.
We hollered no, and we going the other way. Okay, Dad, whatever you want me to do. Now, here we go. Watch this.
No. Over.
Okay, I'm confused. What about you? You see it right there?
I was so confused at that point. let me stop it. Okay, now this is where I need to explain what I was thinking and not understanding because I knew at that point that I was so lost. I mean, I didn't know what to do. And my objective when I said no the very first time, I wanted him to go back. I wanted him to go straight away from me instead of right or left. And I was so confused about what I was supposed to say because for some reason I was thinking I thought I remember Steven telling me even if I want him to go back, it's still no over with a backhand cast. Is that incorrect?
Well, what we were talking about is a dog's internal arrow, and that when they get the retrieved object and are headed back toward you, their arrow is now pointed toward you. And a
Right.
lot of times, in order to get an over, you have to give a back because the dog is compromising with you. And you told them to go 180 degrees away from you, so they split the difference and go 90 degrees one way or the other. That's inappropriate activation of swim by. But
Okay.
that's what you see a lot of people have to do in order to get a dog to give a bumper and mouth cast, a disciplined cast. So when you gave that back cast, um, when you gave that, you said you gave a back and said over. I mean, Tanner was probably ready to half himself up like this screen, have three of them and swim three different directions.
He was
Um,
sitting there going, "Man, I wish I was a beagle."
And that, but at the same time, at least he was doing, he was trying to give you effort. He was giving you directional change. He was doing something different. Bless him. Um, the the other thing that really jumped out at me there. Oh, the question I asked when we talked about this, as I said, why did you go back and forth and not let him go to one bank? And you said,
I was trying to keep him in the screen.
he said, I had the cameraman. I was just keeping him in the screen. So he did well. Keep on playing.
Okay.
He's swimming to the far bank now. You just after
Yeah.
you gave the old back over, he's saying, "Let me get out of here." Going to the far bank, still swimming away. How far is that far
Well,
bank,
yeah,
Jake?
so that's about probably around 100 yards, 85 yards maybe.
Now he was starting to get out, and you stopped him. Is that right?
Yeah, I
I
don't
heard it.
remember. I
I
don't
heard a
remember.
scent whistle and then a recall.
That's what I did.
Um,
He was
if he'd have gone that far, I would have let him go a little bit farther to get up and out. Just because you stopped him at the grayest point, which is the very edge.
I think what happened was when he got to the very edge, he turned around and started to come back, so I stopped him because I didn't
Okay.
want him to just turn around.
And that's pretty common, and I'll explain that behavior. We're going to have a chance to see that again on the next video. If he stopped on his own and didn't want to get out, that's totally understandable because this whole drill has been based around go where I tell you to go and stay and choose water indefinitely, right? So,
Correct.
and remember, it doesn't have to be a true 90-degree over when you give that over. Kylie Moses. So you right there, it's a perfect example. You gave a over and let him swim 5 strides and then said, okay, that's the one thing I never do. If I'm going to activate swim by, it's not just for a second. You got to let that dog carry that because if you start letting them cut it off in 5 strides, they're going to immediately swim 5 strides and come in. It doesn't have to be all the way to the other bank, but you at least got to let them do it and follow through. Just like a follow through on a jump shot. You got to let them follow through on the command and let them show the objective to carry the cast before you cut it off. Remember that because that was the biggest thing you did in in the video that we're not going to see is everything was great. He did the great work. You turned it on, let him swim 3 strides, and he's close to the bank and he's thinking about beaching, and you made him swim 3 strides and then said, okay, and let him get out and still let him square out the bank instead of making him swim by you. You told him to swim a little bit, but you never made him cross that center line and come back out to the big water. So it was still in the cheating realm of things. Does that make sense?
100%. And I get that now much more. Even honestly, after that video, after that moment, I understood it better than I did there. I mean, 5 minutes later, I was going through my head going, wow. I mean, basically, I just made him go out there and swim a square. You know,
So it was a good first attempt. I will 100% give you that, and I understand the parameters that you were working with, trying to keep him in a box, so to speak.
Mhm.
But that's not the ultimate goal. When I tell what the ultimate goal is, that I give you a no directional towards water, and you take that water and seek water until I tell you to stop, or water runs out and you hit the bank and you keep on going. The point to be made is it's not a true 90-degree over. I don't want a dog angling in when I ask for swim by. I don't want them angling toward me, but anything from 90 degrees or back, especially if they're swimming at bigger water. If bigger water's at, not 45 degrees, but let's say 30 degrees past 90. So if it's 120 degrees, if they're taking a 120-degree cast on my swim by, but they're swimming toward more water, I'm not going to stop that. I'm not going to ask them to give me a perfect 90 if they're looking for bigger water. Perfect example, if you give them a swim by toward the far bank, and the far bank has a break in it that leads to another piece of water, and the dog swims not to the bank, but through the break of the bank, through the gap, into the next piece of water, and keeps on going, that's a dog that's truly seeking water to the maximum extent.
Got it. I'm pulling up a link. I'm actually on a different page right now because I think I can pull up a different link.
That you're rating the refrigerator.
And hang on one second. Copy. I'm gonna pull up a link because I think I can. I think I can play this here now. Paste. Come on, baby. Push to staging. Oh yeah. Look at that. That's why we moved this to. That's why we moved this to this platform instead of. Oh, it's
No,
gonna
we
get.
moved it because we hadn't had to stop and restart 3 times.
Oops. 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 But this is if I can pull this off, this will be very helpful. So
All right. So while you're working on that, Ray Vogt, my main man, my area rep for Pro Plan, said, do you have a general rule of how far you make them swim by? And when they achieve the distance you're looking for, do you use a whistle to release them or return on a verbal cue? The big thing I'm looking for when I activate swim by is commitment. So it's not necessarily a set distance. What I'm looking for is the dog looking at the other bank and willing to swim, willing to go. And like I said, you don't want to let it be 5 strides. When they pass that center line, when they pass you, swim by you and look for big water, and show the commitment to go to the other side, depending on the level of the dog, that's when I'll turn them loose. And what I use to release them is something that you haven't done a good job with yet, and you're going to see it in your next video especially. I use the verbal cue, okay. So, okay, and not just like, it's not just okay. I say, okay, like, hey, you did it. You did just exactly what I asked you for, and I'm going to praise you with my voice when I ask for that, for them to actually stop swimming by. It's you did everything right. Think of it essentially, like a child chose to do the wrong thing. They got reprimanded and they changed their behavior accordingly. And you want to make sure that they understand how good they did, how well they progressed. One other question, or one other thing to point out. This is a question for you, Jake. Had a buddy just text me and said, how can you ask questions during the discussion? And Kendra, we talked about this last night. Some people, I think, especially if you have an Android-based phone, it might not show up that you can ask on your phone. But if you watch this on the computer, like for instance, my phone, you can't ask questions on the YouTube platform, but we could on a computer. Is there any other way to get around that, Jake?
I honestly don't know how to answer that because I don't have Android and I don't know how that all works. But you should be able to comment on the YouTube in the YouTube section. I mean, we're at our platform here that Steven and I are on. We're actually watching the screen, the master screen on the platform that I built to host this show, and it's just streaming into YouTube. I'm not actually watching YouTube, although I do have it on my phone. And on my phone, if you go to the very bottom of the page, then there's a chat publicly little box there that you can tap on and your queue will come up and then you can start asking questions. Someone just said, how well does the dog recover after this? Does he have to have a break or moving right along?
Oh goodness. Well, when you, I don't, I think that needs to be a little bit better elaborated question in the sense that recover being from fatigue or mental recovery. And when you say this, are you talking about the application of swim by once or the actual whole process that you go through to teach it? But I mean, if you're talking about actually turning the swim by on and reprimanding, then I mean, no, you don't have to do anything else. You can. People are blowing me up and making me laugh.
No,
I
now
mean,
you got to tell us what they're saying.
so when no, they said funny things about you. No,
That's
um, the to but the as far as if the dog did wrong and you just made them swim, we're not talking about swimming a marathon. We're simply talking about bending their mind away from the bank that they wanted to go to.
I
Um,
think to answer that question too, I think where field dog life is coming from is, how much can a dog take? How much swimming? And I asked Steven this the other day because I have the longest portion of my big pond is about 185 yards from bank to bank. And I thought, well, that's almost 400 yards if he swims there and back. And I said, and my question to Steven one day was, well, how long, like, what do you consider to be a long swim? And he was like, I mean, it starts getting long at 300 yards, but 4, 5, 600 yards isn't isn't, I mean, that's something that we train to do. So, and I thought to myself, okay, well, for that's nothing. So to answer your question, you can keep going. I mean, what he swam there was probably, 200 yards or 250 yards with all the directions that I gave him. Um, but you can keep going. That's not, I mean, that's really nothing for a lab like that.
the only time you wouldn't is if there's extreme circumstances, extremely hot, extremely cold. The dog's already done a lot of work. Or sometimes you'll actually see dogs that start to bloat. They'll take air into their stomach and they'll start to swell up. And one of the best ways to know that is their tail. You'll actually see their tail start coming out of the water and slapping on top of the water. It's because their abdomen is actually filling with air, and it's a painful thing for them. And sometimes you'll see them start to struggle. At that point, you can't you can't ask for something when a dog's physically not in a state of mind or a physical state to be able to give that. So if you see a dog, if there's ever a question, is my dog in physical trouble? Don't keep hammering that nail. Back off of it. Let the dog get out. Usually throw it a happy bumper or two. You'll hear it burp, and then things will get back to normal. But sometimes you'll see dogs that naturally bloat. They're just not comfortable in the water. They'll ingest air. You see some of them that will do it when they get into a pressure type situation. They'll get a little bit of anxiety, and you'll see them start to physically bloat. That's something you really have to watch out for. You don't want to ask for too much when they're not physically ready to do it or physically able to do it. Miss Beth, we're going to answer your question about the no on the next video. Ben Walters said, what about corrections for cast refusals? Is it just no and then another cast? That's an open-ended question as well. I'm not going to say I don't use no around the water, but I do a lot of attrition. So if they don't give me the correct cast, I stop them and make them give me the correct cast, and I don't get into using that verbal no reprimand immediately. That's just my style. And a lot of times, basic dog training breaks down to a dog having a positive response to pressure or perceived pressure situations. So a whistle is a type of pressure. When you blow the whistle, that is telling the dog to change their behavior. And blowing it again immediately thereafter is saying, hey, that wasn't the appropriate behavioral change. You don't necessarily have to scream no at them to tell them that they did wrong. The fact that you applied pressure immediately behind that with just the whistle is enough to tell them that's incorrect. So you don't have to use the verbal term no if you don't want to, and you don't have to cue swim by on no. You can cue swim by on cotton candy. I mean, whatever you want, whatever words you choose to activate this is something that you can use to. It's whatever terms you use. I'm just telling you mine and why I use them the way that I do. And this is going to carry on. This is going to carry on into an advanced conversation later that you're not ready for, Jake. When it comes to
wasn't ready for this
when we're talking about the cueing of the verbal term no around handling itself, we're going to get to that once you've got swim by mastered and down good. But I don't just holler no for no apparent reason. There's a reason behind it when I'm using corrections.
So I think it's really important for those of us that don't understand this to understand that where my biggest mistake or my biggest limitation is not understanding the language. I understand because Steven told me what my dog should or shouldn't do or is supposed to do or how I go through this drill. But where all these mistakes come into play is because I don't understand the language. I mean, it's not totally Chinese to me because I've been hunting my whole life and I know what back and Tanner and over and those basic commands are. But when you start getting into this technical work, man, I got really confused, especially at the moment when, okay, my dog's not doing something right. And then, you know, I yell, no. and then he turns the other way and starts swimming for more water. I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. I meant for you to go that way. And so that's where that's where I trip most of the time is not. Does someone have a book out there like a dog training dictionary?
Oh yeah, they are. There are.
I'm gonna get me. We
And,
need to figure out. I need to find out where to get one, and I'm gonna go
one
get
one that wouldn't even be a dictionary. It's not even that thick. Carol Cassidy's got. I'm trying to look. There was one in my bookcase. What's the name of it? And I remember in hers, it's a drills book. It's a fundamentals and drills book. As Kendra comes walking by, oh look, there, I saw you. Oh, by the way, before I forget, let me tell you what a wonderful woman I'm married to. This is my 14-year anniversary, and look what I get to do.
Happy anniversary! I'm honored that I get to spend it with y'all. Thank you, Kendra.
For many years, we actually did our anniversary at the SRS Crown. When they used to do it in May, I always felt our anniversary was always on the Crown, and so we've been centered around dog work for a long time. Building a Retriever, Drills and More. This was the 3rd edition, and in the back of Carol's book, it actually has it is captioned jargon. I don't think you can see it. Jargon.
Oh yeah.
And it actually goes through all the cold blind, cheap, creeping, cue, diversion, drag back, all these terms.
Wait, what's it called? I'm going to type this in. What's this book called again? Building a Retriever.
Yep. This is my friend Carol Cassidy. She's a school teacher from Florida who is a great fundamentals person. She actually sent me this book with a little caveat because she quoted me in it and she wanted me to know that she had done it. She's a great fundamentals person. She is one of my favorite dog people, and she's really, really good at what she does. And so that would be a good lead in for finding drills. She's a drills person, which makes sense because she's a teacher. A lot of those little things that you can do on your own to help shape. It's not super duper. All of it's not super advanced, but that's exactly what we need to
catch up a little
Be
bit.
focusing on right here. Exactly.
Because everything goes back to the basics and the foundation that you built anyway, right?
Everything.
Mhm.
Everything goes to basics. And it's what I tell my young dog guys all the time is that this is the stuff that people like to try to rush through, but this is the foundation that you build everything upon. And if you can't be a good advanced dog trainer unless you were a good young dog trainer, because you got to, it's not just about making dogs be able to do this stuff. It's about understanding how to teach them the fundamentals in the right way and understanding how those fundamentals connect to all the stuff later on. Like, for instance, when we do a seminar, one of the things we always get is my dog has a loopy whistle sit. I blow the whistle and the dog doesn't immediately sit. And I struggle with that. And my first question I ask the folks is, I'm like, well, get your dog out. And they get him out and I say, tell him to sit. And it's a sit, 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 and the dog, it takes 14 times to get a dog to sit down by their side. And I say, you wonder why it's difficult at a distance. You don't have it at your side. And again, it all goes back to fundamentals. It all goes back to the basics and understanding how getting a good sit, getting a sit with a sense of urgency early on, it means everything for getting a good sit for the rest of their life. When folks want to get bogged down on this stuff, I can't. I go back to I've yet to see a dog that sits too well. Have you ever seen a dog that sits too well? Maybe one of the first things that we teach, yet that's their base command for the rest of their life. We're going to build everything around it.
So,
you got that? Go ahead.
well, I was going to address a couple things. Bennett Fuller said, "Don't beat yourself up, Jake. Most of us in the same boat." And I really appreciate that, Bennett. And I'm sure you can see it in my face and my body language. But I'll be honest with you, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to be the punching bag. I have my ego. I checked my ego. He's sitting right over there, actually. I have no qualms about all the things. I'm not going to hide anything from anyone because I have nothing to hide. This is the truth, and the best way for me to learn and to help everybody else learn is to be myself and allow that to happen. And so, I'm good to go, and I hope this is helping everyone. What was the other thing I was going to say? I can't pull that link up because I don't understand this platform as well, but I am going to pull this up when we want to watch that second video because I think it's so important. I'm going to airdrop it to my iPad right now, and I think um, I think it's important that at least I hold the iPad up so that you guys can see where we went on this. Let me see here on the very second at the very second time I did this, right after that first video, I did it again, and I want to show you what my dog did and help me get through this because it's pretty impressive, I thought. So this
Well,
is that.
and just to add to that, I'm glad you're pointing out that this is the second time, but just like we talked about on the marking scenario, it almost looks too rehearsed. It's too easy. What happens right there is too easy.
It's blown out, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit blown out. You have to kill your light.
Yeah. Let me see what I
That's a
can
little
do.
bit better. Go ahead, hit and play that. Yeah, right there. That's a good one.
Okay, I'm gonna
Hit
add
play
one
and
more.
let it go. So you can't get that link to work on
Not
split
yet. I
screen.
will.
All right, flatten it out just a little bit right there.
Is that good?
That's pretty good. So he's swimming to the bumper you threw. Is that correct?
Yep. And I was holding the camera this time. Oops.
That was worse. Yeah, now it's better.
No, over.
All right, now that is what swim by ought to look like. And if you look, the reason you know it's right is he's not looking at you. He's looking at the other bank.
He's committed, like you said. That's the sign of commitment, right? He's
Correct.
going in a direction, just like you send him on a
Now
back,
you're
or is
about to have to hit a pause here. Watch.
okay, I can.
He's thinking about that edge. All right, hit pause right there.
Yeah.
All right, so the dog was progressing toward the bank, right?
Mhm.
And he was doing well, and he started getting to less water, what I'd call skinny water, and
Mhm.
he had a moment of second thought, and he looked back towards you, and this is where we were talking about you were overusing the term no. You were swim by is supposed to activate taking a direction, and right there he was starting to lose a little bit of momentum, and no there made him nervous. What he should have just gotten was just a verbal over, just a continuation of what he was doing. Just keep holding that line, Bubba, you're doing right. When you said no again, he started to turn towards the edge and said, that's not right. And then you said no the third time, and he turned and went the opposite direction. This
Mhm.
is the important thing. This is what's so fun for teaching to me. It's not just telling you the what to do. It's not just saying no, not telling you to say no and over. It's helping you understand how the dog is interpreting what it's hearing. And he was approaching thin water and got a little bit nervous about that. And you told him, more water, over. He said, I don't know if that's right. More water, over. And he turned and said, okay, more water is the opposite direction because I'm getting in the thin water to the side I'm swimming towards. I'm going to turn and swim toward the center of the pond again. And this is where I start telling people the best way to bring dogs to correct lines is from the middle of the pond to the edge, not from the edge to the middle. And that's where he's starting to show you where his mind
Uh-oh,
is.
we lost him. I think at
Uh-oh,
least I think we did. Let me pull up YouTube and see what's going on here.
he froze. Jake's
I
frozen.
may have to pull him out. I'm gonna pull him out. Steven, if you can hear me, just come back.
How do I come back?
Want to say hi, Walker? You're live on YouTube. Then you need to stay back, okay?
Host. What?
Okay, go ahead. I'm just gonna wait for Steven to come back. But I'm gonna reiterate, you know, when
All right, go back.
when Tanner when Tanner checked up and looked at me, I said no, over, and like Steven said, he thought I said go find more water, and what I was really saying was no, 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 you're doing this wrong, over. And again, it's really a part of me not understanding the terminology, or at least not being as in the moment with the language. If I thought about it and took my time, I probably could have worked that out. But instead, I panicked. There's my son. There's my dog Tanner and my son Walker. Let me call. I'm gonna call. Check back in on link.
Refresh.
You want to say hi? No, come over here. It's my son Walker, and this is my dog Tanner. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. I'm not sure where. I'm not sure where Steven went. I thought we were going to be technical issue free, but apparently this platform has a few flaws too, or it may have been his service. I don't know. Let me see if I can answer some questions here. Does anyone have any basic questions about, me? Oops, I'm working on it. Okay. Does anybody have any things they want to share? Any questions? Back, you need to change the screen. He's back. No, I don't see him. He should pop up into my staging area. I have a staging area on my master screen. Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. I think. Here he comes. Three, two, one. Okay, watch out, Walker.
I don't see him though.
I still don't see him.
Weird.
You can say hi.
You don't see me at all.
Out to dinner. It's their anniversary. I'm still not seeing him. I'm
Weird.
gonna remove him again. He's gonna have to pop back in. We're starting to lose people now. Hang in there with us. I'm really sorry. You can watch my son for entertainment. Does anyone have any questions or comments about where you are with all this and compared to where I am? Again, as young trainers or handlers, is ready to join. I still don't see his face on my app here. Beth White is young trainers. Oh, so you see both of us? See, I only still see a blue screen.
We see a blue screen for you. Can you hear us?
Hey, you're on speakerphone. What's up? Are you on?
I can see you. I mean, excuse me. I can hear you. I'm looking at a blue screen, but I can see
Yep.
me.
Oh well, I can see me, but I can't see you. All I see is a blue screen.
I'm wondering.
So,
I'm wondering if you're not going to have to shut the whole thing down because I'm trying to reuse the link that you sent me.
oh, you're trying to use the same. Let me send you a different link. How's
There
that?
you
Hold
go.
on one
There
second.
you go.
Add guest, copy link. Hang in there with me, people.
All right, I'm backing out so I can redo the. Well, there you just came up.
You came up?
I'm looking at you, and as soon as I disappeared, you came up. So at least I can see you now. Can you hear me?
Okay. I can hear you on the phone, but I can't hear you on the. Let me see here. Paste. Okay, I just sent you the link. I'm going to go back over to Be Live. Everybody's hanging in there for the most part. About 4 people left. They probably had to go to the bathroom. If you need to go to the bathroom, go take a break. So I just sent him another link. So let me go back to best. As young trainers or handlers, we tend to correct when we get uncomfortable or if dog goes extreme the other direction, way more water, we tend not to realize that's what we're seeking. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I definitely, I panic. It's almost like, do you hit the brakes or do you hit the gas? And when you hit, let's say when you hit black ice, you don't know whether to turn your steering wheel with the car or against the direction of the car spinning, or hit your brakes or pump your brakes or just let the car go. And you tend to panic and you hit the brakes and you spin your steering wheel the wrong way. And that's typically what I do when I'm training. When I'm in a new drill that I don't understand, and particularly the language just jacks me all up. We're losing people now.
Oh.
I may have to kill this and start all over again. Um, I hate to do that, but I think I'm going to, because we seem to be locked out here. All right. If you please hang in there with us. If you want to come back, we'd really encourage you to. If not, I totally understand. We've been on here for an hour, but I'm going to kill this and come back on another one. Stop. Can you? What do you need?